Welcome to Adjusting, a safe space for candid conversations about mental health and well-being with your host, Justin G. Nelson. Whether you're recovering from trauma, redefining your purpose, managing mental health, or simply craving more authenticity, this show is for you. I hope something resonates with you and helps you on your own personal journey. So sit back, relax, and let's start adjusting. And welcome back to Adjusting Podcast with your host, Justin G. Nelson. And now a word from me. No sponsors yet. I think season 2 is going to be lit. Like I'm feeling really good about the sponsorship. However, if you do want to connect with me and support me with my other platforms, feel free to follow me there. So if you're into plant-based nutrition and food and recipes, follow me on Earthy and Cultured. I do have a cookbooks and conversation series on YouTube, so you can check that out. If you're interested in branding and marketing and all those things, follow me at Nelson Design Lab, which may be changing very soon. So stand by. Also, if you're into men's fashion, you can follow me at The Detailed Gentleman. And if you want to just follow my creative journey and my performance career, you can follow me at Justin G. Nelson. Shout out to TJ Bolden, who does my editing for my podcast. Be sure to give his podcast a listen. Tea with TJ, he just launched season 3. So before we jump into the episode, I do want to invite you to take a deep breath in because this is going to be a great conversation, okay? So relax your feet. I want shoulder width apart. Make sure your thighs are relaxed, your stomach, your chest, your neck, your forehead, your eyes, your hands. Just relax yourself because it's going to be a good conversation, okay? And on the count of 3, I want you to take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3 if you're driving, focus, and breathe out. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. And out. 1, 2, 3. So I took last week off, and as I was setting up, the Spirit said, you need to talk about rest, adjusting to rest. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I see what you're doing here because so many of us, even myself, we get caught up in the desire to create and create and create. But there is so much creation in rest. Y'all, I'm gonna have to go to seminary school because that was a word. I mean, it's the beauty that comes from rest, the joy, the passion, the ideas, the creativity, all of that is birthed from rest because you allow yourself to just be in a state to receive things. Because when you're so busy grinding and trying to keep up with the Joneses, who really ain't got it all, you miss certain things that universe, God, ancestors are trying to give you because you're distracted. So anyway, that is not what we're talking about this week. I am sorry, but I had to get that out. I had to get that on record. So come back next week when we talk about adjusting to rest. But this week's episode is titled Adjusting to Your Worth. Now, this was also inspired by a recent event. So some of you know I am a performer. I've been performing my entire life, like 3rd grade. I had my little first solo in the Christmas musical, and I was in all city, I was in all west, all state. I did all the things, okay? I was a choral guy, still am to this day, but when I got to middle school at Colonial, I was in the show choir and Sister Act 2. Like, that was when I knew I wanted to do show choir. And we actually did some of the choreography from that. Went on to college, got my undergrad in music education, but we didn't have a musical theater program, so I kind of tried to build my own program. So I took dance classes for the first time in college. So I took modern dance, I took ballet, I took jazz, and I wasn't able to have a dance major or minor, or else I would probably still be in school. So I just did what I could. I was in the dance company, but I did all these things just to build this musical theater career or this background. Started performing at Playhouse on the Square. In Memphis, I ended up winning the first ever Gypsy Award for Ensemble Dancer. It was basically like featured dancer, but that year I had done 4 productions. I did Three Penny Opera at University of Memphis, The Color Purple at Playhouse, Dream Girls at Hattie Lou, and a chorus line at Theater Memphis. Like I was busy that season. And I moved to New York, and the impact of the industry, and like someone said to me, when you go there, it's going to be 10 of you there. And it was. And there still is. But anyway, all that to say, I went to an audition. And a lot of people say, Justin, are you still performing? Like, I see you doing your thing with the podcast, and you have the branding and marketing, and you're making food content, but I don't see you talk about performing much. Like, did something happen? Life happened. Like, when the pandemic happened, a lot of performers realized we can't live or bank on performance because the industry is oversaturated, as is all industries, but the opportunities to find a job is slim sometimes, and sometimes casting has their pick of people. No shade to them. Listen, pick me. Let me be in your number. But it became daunting not knowing, like, would I ever be able to make a living from performance? And even a lot of people who are performing now, it's like, you need more income. This young man, I think he's in the national tour of Moulin Rouge or something, and he's on Broadway. He's in New York, and he was just saying he has a full-time job, but it's also on Broadway because of the lack of pay. Like once Uncle Sam get his cut, Equity gets their cut, your manager or agent get their cut, you're left with a cut. Okay, and it's just like, how do I do 8 shows a week and can't get this? Anyway, I had an audition. I went to an audition after my birthday, which was July 10th. So July 12th, I think, I went in for a show. It was a dance call. And I didn't hear anything back. And I was just like, maybe it's booked. That happens sometimes. You'll go in, they'll have a call. Sometimes the call is required. And I didn't hear anything. A month passed. A month and some change passed. And I was sitting at church in my office, because I work for my church. I was sitting in my office, and I got an email saying, "Hi, we would like to invite you to come in and sing for show." I cried. Y'all, I don't think y'all understand. To get a call back after so many rejections, so many times you've gone in for shows and you're just like, I'm right for this show, but you never get any closure from it, or you never know, like, okay, are they casting or what's going on? I got a call back. And I was just like, thank you, God. Like, wow. So I said in that moment, had the call back. It was that Thursday. And then I got to the call back. I sang. Y'all, I sang like it was the last audition I ever do. Cried after that. I think I cried in the room. I held that B flat, and a little tear came down. And I left out of that room feeling great. I was just like, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, God. I mean, I was shouting, thank you, God. Thank you, universe, for this opportunity. Got back to church. It was the day of our prayer marathon. I was feeling good. 2 hours later, can you come back Monday to dance? I was like, y'all showing out. Like, to dance again? Okay, bet I'll be there. I danced Monday. And when I got there Monday, imposter syndrome kicked in. And I texted Ebony. Ebony is like my go-to therapist. I was like, Ebony, it's happening. So when I say it's happening, usually I don't have Broadway credits. It was an invited dance call. So every black dude on Broadway was there. And I was just like, ooh, where did y'all come from? Like, this is my opportunity to give me this job. And it was cool. Like, in that moment, I was just like, you know what? You're my equal. You may have a credit, but right now you're my equal. We're in this together. And so imposter syndrome knocked, and Ebony was just like, no, you're there. You deserve to be there. And in that moment, I was just like, this is determining my worth. This is honing in and grounding in my worth. And so I reflected on that. I didn't book it. I did get a final call back, but I didn't book it. But I went out for drinks with TJ Monday to kind of celebrate that moment. And I was just like, worth. So in that moment, as I was walking to the train, I was like, I want to talk about adjusting to your worth. So what I took away from that audition was, even though I have faced a lot of past rejections, no closure, uncertainty, not knowing anything. So being in an audition room allowed me to re-examine my worth and really say I deserve to be here just as much as the next person with more Broadway credits or more experience or who went to the talk schools and all of that. I deserve to be here just as much as the next person. I put in just as much work. Even if I don't post about it, I'm working on it. So that experience was able to allow me to readjust and know that every experience can be a contribution to your worth and allowing you to reposition yourself and just say, I deserve to be here. I deserve a seat at the table. I deserve this just as much as the next person because I'm worthy. Okay. Okay. So great. So we got that out the way. I got the self reflection done. But a lot of times people confuse self worth for self esteem. So let's define that. Self worth is the internal sense of being good enough and worthy of love and belonging from others. It can also just be, like I said, in the creative space, good enough to accomplish something, good enough to be in a position. And that's sometimes where the cousin or the evil side, the imposter syndrome, pops in. Common misconceptions when it comes to self-worth is that self-worth is a fixed thing, but it's more of a muscle that we strengthen with experience and with lived experience. So a lot of times if you experience bullying or you experienced a lot of childhood trauma or adult trauma, adolescent trauma, it tends to tear away at your self-esteem and your worth. You're just like, you know what? I'm not good enough. I don't need to be here, or I don't deserve this, or you over apologize. And I find that to be a trend in the Black community. Like, we're so apologetic sometimes. So, it depends on how we're raised. We apologize for everything, for every minor thing. And some of that is rooted or connected to your worth and how you view yourself in a space or in a room. So I put in my notes, self-worth is not the same as self-esteem. They were sisters. So self-worth, or your belief in your own value as a person, generally comes from within. Self-esteem, or your opinion of your traits and abilities, often comes from outside sources. So the societal pressures and comparisons that affect our perception of worth. I just want to go on record and say that the quote, comparison is the thief of joy, is not in the Bible. Black people love to get a good quote and say it's from the Bible. It's not. It's far from the Bible. It was from President Theodore Roosevelt. Okay, he said that. Give him credit, because it wasn't King James didn't say that. Now the Bible does talk about joy and the thieves and all those stuff, but this ain't it. So stop it. But it comes from the desire to fit in. That's one of the societal pressures. Social media and FOMO. People want always, like I said, want to keep up with the Joneses. But baby, listen, I love when people say the grass is greener on the other side. They just got a good lawn care service to where they can paint over it. It's still dying. It is still very much decaying. So stop comparing yourself to people. You like Theodore said, you lose so much of your own joy by trying to see what's going on over there. Baby, worry about you. The time you spend worrying on other people, you could be worrying about yourself. Okay? And I love hate that meme that's going around with, I think it's either SpongeBob or a cartoon character or something, and it's like society wants you to have a morning routine, eat 5 meals a day, drink 8 glasses of water, work, take care of your kids, have a third space, have a hobby, read a book, meditate, get 8 hours of sleep. How? How? And people always say you have the same 12 hours as Beyonce or the same 24 hours as Beyonce. I ain't got the same budget as Beyonce. Okay. I ain't got the same platform as Beyonce. So please stop bringing Beyonce up. Every time people talking about grinding, we will talk about that next week though with rest and the grind culture. Ha ha ha. It all connects. That's why I love it. I just love it here. And then, so moving on, there are very common things that come up when it regarding self-diminishing behaviors. And I talked about how people always over apologize. So here are four. Number one is negative self-talk. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. I was guilty of that for a long time. I was very much guilty of that. It reinforces low self-esteem and creates a self-fulfilling prophecy that you just aren't good enough, and you talk yourself out of a lot of opportunities. The second thing is downplaying achievements. Again, I think I talked about that in shadow work. I do not listen. Just like with this audition, I downplayed it to a certain extent, and then I got over it. But a lot of people, creatives especially, it's like it was just luck, like anyone could have done it, or I just got, it just happened. Appreciate it, own that moment. It's just like, this happened. I deserved this. I worked hard for this. The third thing is excessive apologizing. Like I said, apologizing for things outside of one's control or having needs. Instead of saying, I'm sorry all the time, just like, thank you so much. I would do better. Or thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's easy. The fourth thing is people pleasing at the expense of personal needs. I was guilty of this. Y'all, it's just like, I feel like I'm always exposing myself, and I'm sorry, but like, that's what makes a podcast personal and good, is when it really resonates with you. So people pleasing at the expense of personal needs, always saying yes, neglecting self-care to help others. I had to get out of this habit because I was taught or bamboozled to believe that always helping others will create a blessing for you. But it does until it doesn't, because then you are not in a position to receive anything, because you start to question everything. Like, am I doing, not question everything from the place of what do I get out of it, but am I doing this for good? Not what's in it for me, but why am I always the one to do this, and then I leave depleted, but then when I need their help, they're not here for me? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, great. So that brings us to setting boundaries. We talked about this in another episode, so I will not beat that horse again, but set the boundaries. The boundaries are for you and not the person, okay? They are for the person to adjust to, so that they know how to treat you in this new version of you. You got it? Great. Now, owning your space in life. What does it mean to own your space? God has not given us a spirit of fear, but the Lord has given us a sound mind. That sound mind is the passion, the purpose, the intention, the why as to why you are here. Okay. So if you continue to allow society and other MFs on these platforms tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing with your time, you're not owning your space. Okay. Owning your space looks like Kendrick Lamar. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show, that man, that's a new African proverb right there. But owning your space is waking up in the morning and say, this is what I am going to accomplish today for me, for the goals that I've set, to heal that inner child, to right the wrongs that have created themselves in my life, and to better align to the purpose that I have set, or that God, universe, whoever you serve, has set for me. That's what owning your space looks like to me. So with owning your space, you have to set the boundaries. It can be emotional, physical, time, work, life. So now that I'm claiming that my sciatica has cleared up, some things got to shift. Like, I have done better with setting boundaries with clients. I have done better with setting boundaries with my church job. I've done better setting boundaries with finances. Now, I will say there are some times where I go splurge a little bit because I did buy a bag to celebrate my callback. But that, listen, I deserve that bag. But anyway, so you set boundaries when it comes to those things. But when it comes to owning your space, there is a level of assertiveness that needs to happen. Now, I want to talk about the difference between being aggressive, assertive, and passive when it comes to things. Now, I can be shady. I can be very sarcastic, but I do not like passive aggressive people. I don't. So when it comes to owning your space, there is a level of assertiveness that needs to happen. Now, there's assertiveness, there is aggressive, and then there's passive aggressive people. Let's talk about assertive people. So assertive people state what they have to say, state their opinion without trying to hurt someone's feelings. It's basically just setting the ground and being a team player or being understanding of the environment and not trying to ruffle any more feathers in the occasion. It's just saying it just to create peace and keep the balance. Love that. Be assertive. Aggressive people attack or ignore others' opinions in the favor of their own. I like to call those people Virgos. You thought I wasn't gonna make it through an episode without talking about Virgos? Listen. It's y'all season. And that's it. And then the last are passive people who don't state their opinion at all in public, but they get on social media and start typing like, well, what I would have done was, or had they asked me to do this, I would have done. Or they text that little group thread, but they don't realize that I'm friends with somebody in that group thread, so I'm gonna find out what you said. Don't do that. Be assertive. Be assertive. So in your space of owning it, we are assertive people. Moving on. Now, when it comes to addressing imposter syndrome, we don't want that in our space. Like I said, we deserve to be here. We are here. But what is imposter syndrome? So, imposter syndrome relates to people who doubt their skills, talents, or accomplishments. They may have persistent internalized fear or being. Oh, wait. Imposter syndrome relates to people who may doubt their skills, their talents, or their accomplishments. They may have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as frauds. People who make adjustments into something new often feel they don't have enough experience to be expert in that field. What you've gone through and your lived experience makes you an expert to know that you needed to make an adjustment for the good. So, ain't no reason to be an imposter or to have imposter syndrome. I had it when I shifted to branding and marketing. Listen, in the pandemic, I was studying everything. I was on everybody TikTok and everybody masterclass, paying for everybody workshop, learning the things. And I learned as I go. A lot of your favorites still don't know it all. A lot of your favorites call on other people. But you go to them because they got money in the platform and they also feel like an imposter. So stop it. And so while you are creating your own space, we got to throw some energy in there. So, like, focusing that energy on you. Again, we're not keeping up with the Joneses, we're keeping up with ourselves. So self-care is important. Now, I was reading this book called, I think it was Radical Self-Care or Real Self-Care or something. I have never stopped a book on chapter 1 and said I would never read it again. I will not say who it's by. I did not like that book. It was just too fluffy and too many butterflies and too pink. I didn't like it. So anyway, so self-care is not just about bubble baths and spa treatments and treating yourself to food. It's about caring for your mental health. And that was something that I saw in a TikTok video that has been commercialized to fit on a shelf to be sold to others. No. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. People who contemplate suicide are not sitting in their baths taking bubble baths for the sake of trying to come down. They're either trying to contemplate how to get out or something else. So we have to shift the narrative of self care from just this place of comfort and more so to caring for your mental health. So there can be physical self care, emotional self care, mental, social, spiritual, just starting with treating yourself with kindness, like being gentle to yourself, forgiving yourself, loving yourself more. And it does not mean loving yourself enough to buy something new. It's just loving yourself to the point where you're going to rest. Now, rest is self care. Okay. Taking off from work because you are mentally exhausted is self care. Choosing not to record a podcast episode because you had to work 6 shows in 1 week and deal with some crazy people is self care. So try that. We can talk about self care in another episode, but I really want you to tap into that. Now, one great example is mindfulness practice. Now, mindfulness is becoming a little too commercial for me, but it looks like just reading, journaling, getting those thoughts out your head on paper. One thing I do like to do, and something we did a lot with tantric yoga, is we would burn it. Like we would get anything out and just burn it, or you can flush it, or you can bury it. But I live in New York, so I just burn stuff. I know, Justin, you live in an apartment. Yeah, but I keep water nearby. Like I don't just set my apartment on fire or nothing. I just burn the paper, put it in a bowl, and then flush the ashes. But it's just like a release of those things. You can do a breathing like we do at the beginning of every episode, a body scan, and then something else I like to do to recenter myself and to really make sure I'm in tune with my space. I like to revisit my goals, write them out, and make sure they're aligning to my self worth, my brand, my purpose, and something like, you know what? I'm glad you forgot about that. Let's just leave that alone. Maybe that just wasn't meant to be long term. It could have been short term, like 2 weeks. So write out your goals sometimes and just say, okay, am I on track to this? Am I doing the work now to get to there? If not, what do I need to adjust or let go of to get there? Cultivate some supportive relationships. Get around people who fit the level you want to be at. Like, it's one thing to be a good friend. It's another to be a good friend and call people out when they're not being good and just say, hey, this conversation is very heavy and it's repetitive. You talk about this all the time, but yeah, I never hear you say what role you played in this or how are you wanting to fix it and get out of it. So what do you want from me? Because clearly, what I've given you the past 6 times ain't helped. So if we can't find a resolve, either we can't talk about it no more, or we gotta part ways until you heal from this, and that's fine. That's being assertive and not aggressive or passive. It's just being assertive, but also finding people of a like mind that want to grow with you and not leech onto you to suck out your knowledge or your experience or your clientele or your Rolodex of people, but just say, hey, I like your vibe. I like your energy. I like where you're headed. Let's connect. That's fine. And then engaging in activities that bring you joy. Go for a walk. Like, it's not the whole 10,000 steps a day kind of vibe. It's just going for a walk and going out and getting some fresh air. As Black people, we don't always get enough vitamin D, so take advantage of it before winter comes. Other than that, I've really fallen back in love with reading. Y'all can't tell me nothing. I got to get some new AirPods though because I lost my case. But just going for a walk and reading a book, bruh, that's real deal. Also, drinking water, you don't realize how much your body needs water until you drink a lot of it. I know it's not really joy, but it's just something I wanted to throw in there. Um, and if people don't respect this newfound sense of joy or the mindfulness you're practicing or the new friends you're making, and they want to say it's selfish, Say thank you. Thank you for noticing that I am being selfish with my self care and the space that I'm in because I know my worth. You see how I just tied in the whole episode to be. See, listen, that's what rest does. It gives you time to think about things. Tuning in to your place of self worth, your self esteem, because you're sisters, understanding the importance that you play in everything that you do when it comes from a place of purpose and your passion and the gift you're giving, and removing imposter syndrome and doubt and giving yourself more affirmation and a positive way of thinking. All those things will increase your self-worth and allow you to know that you are worthy of everything: the job, the promotion, the relationship, the Broadway show, the health goals. You're worthy of it all. So that is it for this episode. And I really hope that something resonated with you that you can share with someone else. Before we go, I do want to end with a final breath, because this was an upbeat episode. And I want you to breathe in that self worth and let out any doubt or fear or anxiety that you've been holding in because someone told you you weren't worthy. So ground your feet, roll your shoulders back. Relax your chest, your stomach, your thighs, your neck, your forehead. If you're driving, focus. If not, take a deep breath in on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And breathe out. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. And out. 1, 2, 3. Until next time, bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you take something away to help you make the adjustments you need. Before you go, please take a quick second to share this with someone you care about. And if you can, please leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. For more information about adjusting or to inquire about being a guest, head over to adjustingpod.com. Until next time.